We should be live now.
Sweet. Hey guys.
Oh, I forgot to. I'll have to go back and set that thumbnail
Okay.
after.
That's all right.
Okay, I'll send the links. I'll text
Just jump
you a
them in the
link
Skype?
to it, so that you
You
can
want to just
you can
okay.
start sending it out there.
Cool.
Oops.
Tweet it to me, will you?
I
Lee,
just texted
you want me
it to you.
I got you.
Okay.
Okay. My email's being super weird on this. I don't know what it is, syncing up all these Macs and whatever. It's goofy. Okay, perfect. Got it.
We're live. What's up, Nate Hicksman?
Nate's here.
Nate is here.
What up, Nate?
We've got
Okay.
Charlie Robinson and Lee Veltman today. We're going to be talking about
Robots?
all kinds of stuff. Robots.
Robots? Fires? Got a lot.
Yeah. Watching the world burn
Again.
again.
Week 5? No, how many weeks has it been?
Of what? Watching the world burn?
Of fires. Well, I mean,
Oh.
wildfires on top of it. Charlie, aren't you close over there too to the wildfires? Like, don't you? I saw on the map there's fires going on in Colorado as well.
Yeah, there were fires, but they got put out this week because of the snow.
Oh my
Which is
God,
insane.
dude. What
The
a
fact
mess.
that there was like snow all of a sudden just came in, like, and not just a little bit, like a decent amount. It was crazy. So, yeah, we had bad fires in the days leading up to it, and then you get a day and a half of rain and snow, and it did a real number on it. So, we're okay.
My God. Well, welcome to Weaving Spiders, everybody. We're professional, as you can see. Sending out links now for everybody. So Jim, you didn't have to evacuate or anything like that, right? Yeah, what's the nearest place to you
no.
that's having to evacuate?
No, my old town that I used to live in, Sandy, Oregon. It's at the base of Mount Hood. My parents they have a business down there, and part of that town had to evacuate. It's real bad smoky down there. But yeah, up here it's pretty smoky where I'm at, but there's not really any danger from
No imminent
fires. Just the smoke where I'm at right now.
Well, that is a blessing. I mean, honestly, we don't want to, dwell on this, but I mean, how close are you to the nearest massive, blaze?
Oh shoot, it's a ways off. I'm not really sure where the closest one is. I think I'm probably within 60 or 100 miles maybe. I don't know. I guess the fires that are bothering my area right now are probably further away, but it's just the shape of the terrain. I live in a valley, so it just kind of, all the nasty air just kind of gets pushed back here. I mean, we had a forest fire a couple of years ago, and it was like out in the mountains, sort of in the more farmland, sort of like rugged areas, and word was that there are some Bigfoot sightings, because the Bigfoots got pushed down out of their like hiding spots up in the mountains and down into like sort of the town area. So like there was a couple people thought they saw Bigfoots, and it could have been, a big animal like an elk, which you don't normally see here down in the valley, but you never know with these forest fires and stuff.
Right? Sounds awful.
Not the Bigfoot part actually sounds pretty cool. But
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
the rest of it sucks.
it would be awesome to see a Bigfoot. I'd be super stoked.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
2020.
Right? And it'd be like just running away. You see the whole family of big feet, or whatever they call them, Bigfootses.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So tonight we want to welcome the almighty Charlie Robinson, author of Octopus of Global Control, and you podcast what is it? Macroaggressions? I think
Yep.
that's the name of it. Yep.
That's the
It's
name.
Good stuff. How many episodes y'all on now?
Come on,
You are.
50, 55 or so.
Damn.
This will be one that comes out tonight. Yeah,
Nice.
I just kind of it was dumb luck. First episodes came out the first week of March, right when everyone was starting like the quarantine action. So I think I was in a time. I timed it right, I guess,
Yeah.
because people were starting to like, have more free time and do that. I wish that I would certainly trade that for the circumstances of everybody to be better than, I'm not trying to, take advantage of that, but that was just dumb luck and wound up working out okay. So yeah, I've been doing 2 episodes a week since then, and I mean, no shortage of things to talk about or people to chat with about this. I mean, it's to say it's the craziest year ever is just it's an understatement.
Well,
It just
an
doesn't do it
understatement, for
justice.
sure.
It's and we're not done yet too. So we get the last the last lap these last
final
couple months.
stretch, man.
Can't
It's
wait.
deadly final stretch right here.
Yeah.
Seriously, this is going to be awful. Well, we're braced for it. And then our other guest is Lee Veltman. What's up, Lee? From We've Read the Documents fame and legendary Q assassin. Lee, are you here? Did you die?
Here.
Is he here? There he is. What's up, buddy?
Not much, my man. Thank you for the invitation tonight. It'll be a very fascinating discussion with all you guys.
Yeah, is freewheeling. That's how we do it. Professionals.
So I can throw my script away. Is that what you're saying?
Oh yeah. You got anything?
Okay, good.
I thought I sent you the script, Charlie. Come on.
Yes, well,
Get it together, man.
we're going off
Let's
script.
set this already, right? Okay. So let's see here. So a bunch of pretty comical articles came out this week. One of them that I thought was pretty hilarious was I don't know if you guys saw, it was the article where the robot wrote. I think the title was a robot wrote this article. Are you scared yet? And I am. For other reasons, but I mean, come on here. And some of I guess it was actually the AI. I guess it went like 8 different. It punched out 8 different things from what I understand from the way the article read. I don't know necessarily, and then somebody edited it all down. I'm not exactly sure.
Interesting.
As soon as I saw that, I sent the link to Kev Baker because he's my man when it comes to like AI taking over the world and murdering us all, or NASA doing something sketchy, or D-Wave quantum computers reaching into parallel dimensions to bring back information. If there's ever a story about any of those sorts of topics, it's going straight to Kev Baker in Scotland. And I know I'm going to get an email, even if it's the middle of the night from him. I'm going to get an email back, and he's just going to be like, "It's fucking crazy, man. We're all going to die."
So he's the man. He's the go-to on that, like Geordie Rose stuff.
Yeah. Because he had Geordie Rose on his show, on the Kev Baker show, and because we would talk about that, and I was like, "Man, you should have him on your show sometime." He's like, "I'm just going to ask him. What's the worst they could do? Is say no?" And I get an email. I was like, "Dude, he's coming on the show." And then he came on the show. He was super cool, and he and Kev got along really well, and they talked about the ramifications of these quantum computers and what they're doing, and it's all
wild.
weird.
Now, who was that?
It's really well.
That you're talking about?
I was talking about Kev Baker on his show was interviewing Geordie Rose, and Geordie Rose was the founder of D-Wave.
Oh yeah, Geordie. He kind of creeps me out.
Now he's Singularity Net now, I think.
With he's got a fascination with Lovecraft.
Yeah.
Seems to be, yeah.
Makes a lot of connections between the old ones and the place where they get the information
Sure.
from. That those quantum computers go into other dimensions and pull back resources. And they get
That's what he was talking about.
Yeah.
It's sketchy. I mean, I'm fascinated by it. It could be, if it fell in the wrong hands, you could imagine,
Who's to say it?
catastrophic.
Who say it's not already? Or
Yeah.
who created it? Is it?
It's whoever's got the money to buy one.
Right.
So,
20 million, I think it was for one, something like that. I believe that was like the estimated cost they put down when they listed it.
Well, it depends
mean-
because they go up in size, and then the price goes up. Like
Incrementally, yeah, like with the
I think they're called qubits. They're called quantum bits. Is the processor size, and it goes up in the same sort of scale like regular bits, like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32.
Yeah.
Always
I thought it was
doubling in size.
right, or cumulative, or is that I don't know the exact terminology.
Exponential growth.
Exponential, I believe that's it. I think so. Yeah.
Are you guys familiar with Quinn Michaels?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I know quite a bit about Mr. Michaels and his Enderbots.
What's that?
I know a lot about Quinn Michaels.
Oh yeah.
And his what bots? What
The
bots does he have, Lee?
Enderbots, the NQTel stuff that he worked on.
Fill us
Yeah,
in. What do you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to know about. I know Jason Goodman, so I know when they were friends doing all kinds of things together, and then he vanished, and so I'm curious what's cooking.
Let
on
it
him.
rip. Let it rip, Lee. What do you know about Jason Goodman?
Well, Jason worked with 3D movies and has done some interesting stuff. He's in a couple of lawsuits right now. Quinn Michaels did the Psi Seminars large group awareness training stuff in Southern California with the Hilldales. And I guess after he got in a bunch of trouble with some stuff, went through some hard times, he had his lung deflated in the hospital, if you all remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I don't really know what happened with why him and Jason got into such a huge fight that they did. It's still ongoing, I guess.
Yeah.
And like I said, the debate between Quinn Michaels, Cliff High, and AI with all these other people we've mentioned now is a very, like I said, it's just an interesting discussion for me. I don't really understand it that well.
Neither do I, but it's fascinating to me the implications of artificial intelligence. So if I get a chance to listen to those, like Cliff High or somebody talking about where they can see, I mean, they seem to have a better idea of where it's going, a generation from now, whereas I'm still focusing on trying to figure out what it even means, and those guys are, someone like Cliff could extrapolate where this would be taking us. It's a fascinating topic for sure, but it is one that is, boy, it is just ripe to be exploited and used against us and all of these things. We really are it kind of a pivotal moment where this technology, it's like we all grew up on Terminator and stuff, things like
Right.
that. It's like there's like a fork in the road.
Yeah.
It could honestly go that direction, and
sure.
and for like maybe the casual observer of this sort of stuff, they might go, get out of here with that. Why would they make it so evil like that? And it's like, hang on a second, the people that are running this planet are the type of people that would make the robots super evil. that would be the only types of robots they'd want. Those, and maybe the ones that Jeffrey Epstein was financing, the AI dolls for little girls. We can get into that later if you want. But yeah.
What? Wait, what? What? He was literally fine. That's come out in the news that he's fine. I didn't hear this. I don't know.
Yeah, he financed a guy named Ben Goertzel. And Ben Goertzel was he worked with David Hansen of Hansen Robotics, and the two of them built that Sophia doll that was out in the news like 2 years ago. The back of her head was opened up, and Saudi Arabia gave her citizenship.
Yep.
And all that sort of PR stuff. Well, then Epstein financed Ben Goertzel to work on this project, a different project, making the little Sophia doll, which would be about 16 inches tall. And it would be for emotional intelligence is what they called it. And it would have cameras in the eyes and RFID chips and microphones. And it would be feeding, geofence. And it would be feeding images back to somewhere, and it's like, holy shit, this is another thing that Epstein was spending money on. And yeah.
Dude.
So
It's a little groomer doll.
it's a little,
man.
it's also a
It's a little
homing
diddly.
beacon,
Yeah.
it's
yeah.
feeding into this
that's
gigantic mainframe where it's like, come here, pedophiles, pick out which little kid you want us to go kidnap and get. You know what I mean? Like if you know,
Ugh.
if Mattel was making it, I might not jump to that conclusion right away,
Right.
but when Epstein's financing it, then I immediately go to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, this is definitely, I mean, he's not doing it to make money, right? So he's doing it to create something, you know, to gather that information. He was an information guy. So the ramifications of what that could have been used for or where we're going with that technology is obviously
Clearly it's out there. It's already, I mean, he funded the shit. It's oh my God, dude. It's wild.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Well, if you remember,
And
it
the
goes
shit-
back to that Depot convention there in Arabia when the prince arrested his own brothers. You remember that?
I don't.
Well, it's interesting how that led up to this new peace accord between the UAE and what Trump's getting nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize.
So that was real. That is he really been nominated? Did they really nominate him?
Once again, I'm just hearing stuff through Twitter like everyone else.
That's what I saw too. I saw I saw the Babylon Bee, which is hilarious, and I saw a thing where it said Trump Nobel Peace Prize nomination put on hold until a certain number of drone strikes are launched or something along those lines. I thought that was pretty
He's
great.
the best.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But I mean, yeah, that would be. I don't think we've ever, guys. I don't think we've ever had a stretch this long with no war. No, like, you know what I mean. No, like, running war that we, that we can really speak of, where there's
The war's on
boatloads of
us.
troops. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
obviously.
That's it.
It's Yep. There you go. I mean, damn. No Nobel Peace Prize then for him.
No.
For Chaz, there Portland's raging on now.
That's hilarious, though. Jim, he, I don't know. Jim tackled that. He went into the Chaz chop, didn't you, Jim?
Oh yeah, I did
Filmed
go
over
in.
there?
I did go in
You
there.
got footage.
What's that?
So, you got footage, didn't you?
Yeah, I've got a
Video
bunch.
footage of everything. Yeah, what was it, like day 3, 4? You went in there, 5? What was it?
I'm not sure exactly when it started. Probably 3, maybe.
You were there, and
I think I
he was there.
the day after the first guy got shot.
So,
Were
what
you-
was your what?
Were you there before or after they started trying to plant the garden on cardboard?
I didn't see any cardboard gardens. I did see they had started putting some. They had some raised garden beds that they had started, but I mean it was like brand new. They had just bought the vegetables from the grocery store and stuck them in there.
Yeah,
They look like
It was really quick. I remember seeing you were on James True, and you had you on right away, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. So everybody's freaking out like, oh, this is the end of the world. This is the end of the world, and it was like what? Just like day 4 of a shitty festival, of like a shitty rock festival.
Yeah, it was kind of festival where they everybody in town burns their sofas on the front lawn. It was there's lots of cool graffiti to look at, but it looked really
Wonderful.
organized. Like all the buildings were boarded up. All the storefronts were all vacant and boarded up, and they were
Ready for
like
this to happen.
pallets for graffiti, pretty much. All the boards were like canvases for graffiti, and it was, I don't know, it just felt so weird.
Didn't you say though that when you were in there, that you didn't feel like threatened and whatever? Like that's all like that's just the media hyping shit up again.
Yeah.
Making it.
It wasn't scary or threatening, really. Like it. I looked at the news. I looked at Fox News before we got over there. I was like watching the videos, like thinking like, oh, it looks pretty lawless. Thinking like, oh, maybe somebody's gonna beat me up and try to steal my phone or my car or something. But when I got there, that wasn't the concern. I mean, there were people that wanted to cause trouble, but mostly it was just to get the police to come down and have a confrontation.
Right. They just
wanted a confrontation. Yeah, we followed this group all through town. They went to some of the different police precincts and rioted out front. And we were at one, and there was I was standing across the street with a video camera, and there was a lady standing there talking to some people next to me, and she's like, "Oh, I'm the assistant to the district attorney," and she's like, "And see that guy over there? He's my husband. He's SWAT," and there's like this cop, and he's got a mask on, and he's just glaring through his, right over the top of his mask with his arms on his hips. He's a big guy, the shaved head, like total police looking guy, like he looked kind of like that guy from Hank Hill's brother-in-law from not Hank Hill, Breaking Bad. The
Oh yeah. Oh my. No. It wasn't
policeman
him.
character, and he was just glaring at all those kids like it looked like it was just terrible for him to not be able to do anything to stop these kids from, just they were molesting his office. So
wait a minute. You were
I was
the
standing
dude that's
across the street from the police precinct, where everybody was rioting, trying to they were giving speeches and kind of shaking the building, and where I was standing, there was a lady she said that she was the assistant to the district attorney, and her husband was on the other side, and he was a SWAT policeman, and they were both in plain clothes. I think there were a lot of police there in plain clothes, just walking around.
You think that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Undercover?
That totally would make sense because they got to make sure. I mean, they took over the freaking priest, dude. Can you imagine? Yeah. I can't even. I honestly, it's just ridiculous. I can't imagine for Milwaukee, for example, you take over one of the nicest parts of town. There's. I can't imagine living in that neighborhood for as long, for a couple of years. Can you imagine? I just. Holy shit, that sounds awful.
It's a nice, trendy neighborhood. I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean. But then all of a sudden, everything's boarded up. You are like, well, what do we do about this? Well, we not. You know what I mean? I just can't even.
I'm not paying my HOA dues this month.
Yeah,
on my building.
Dude,
that's
right. Awful. But Lee, what were you like? Okay, so you're thinking they're setting up another one? Is that what you're hearing? Where was it? You there?
Oh, they're just doing riots on different. They were trying to do the one in D.C.
Right. They keep trying to start it. It feels like, and then doesn't keep up with this. It just doesn't have it. It's like they don't have enough muster. It's like not enough people. I don't know what it is. Like they tried doing it in Kenosha for 25 cars, at least 25 cars, a row of 25 cars came down from Milwaukee, flew in. I've got reports right here. People getting arrested from Seattle. Coming over. Like, what are you doing? Paid, obviously, in some form. Sorry to cut you off, buddy.
No, it got real crazy when people were looking into the Black Lives Matter and who was behind it with those ladies who were very Marxist. I think that's Charlie's really good with those names, like that kind of stuff.
As soon as that got exposed, people were like, I support the black community, but I don't get the feeling that this Black Lives Matter is actually in any way affiliated or going to benefit the black community. It seems a little bit too corporatized and a little bit too,
co-opted.
Like a shakedown operation where you go around to the NBA and Major League Baseball and Apple and all the, Amazon, you go, we're Black Lives Matter. Want to sponsor us? Want to show your support for us? Be a shame if something happened to your multi-billion-dollar organization if you didn't support Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Get it? And it sort of has that shakedown feel to it. Like everybody's paying their, I'm not a racist insurance to them or something.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's crazy. It is. I mean, the NFL is an awful product, in my opinion, to begin with right now. I literally, when they started changing those rules, I remember they changed some rule like hitting the court. I can't remember what it was. I think it was like 2016, 2017. I know Terry in the chat knows what I'm talking about because that was when I started complaining, like, I can't watch it. But I haven't watched it since then. I literally watched it my whole life growing up. Whatever. I played sports. What are you going to do? I enjoy it every now and then. I still am a basketball fan somehow.
Well, I watched opening night Thursday in Kansas City.
They booed, right?
They all linked arms. Both teams linked arms for this show of unity, And as soon as they did that, man, there were only 16,000 people in the stadium because they're pretending like
16,000 only.
Yeah,
I think
but those 16,000 were booing the shit out of that. As soon as they linked arms
Awesome.
and started doing that, it was just raining boos. It was like we're not interested in this. We want I'm a sports fan. I own a company that works with professional athletes on media training. I've been involved in sports for forever, and I love it. But they got to get the politics out of it. They've got to get the military out of it. I'm talking about the NFL with this salute to service propaganda bullshit. And people are like, oh, the NFL and the military, they partner up. It's like, hang on a second. The military pays them a lot of money to do that. They didn't always televise national anthems. The military paid them to do that as well. This is part of a campaign. And I prefer if they got rid of showing the national anthem. I'd be happy if they got rid of the salute to service component that the NFL has been doing, where everyone's wearing camouflage. And, they've got the dark, the olive green outfits on. And I get it. They sell a lot of merchandise doing that. But please take that stuff out of sports. And people aren't watching. Basketball ratings are way down, and football ratings for this opening night's down 16%, which shouldn't happen when you've got Patrick Mahomes playing it. And it's just there's a lot of there. I think that it's going to be an example of get woke, go broke, and maybe not totally broke for the NFL or Major League Baseball or wherever, but they're going to feel it. I mean, people are sort of like not. Nobody wants to be like forced into this fake
like I'm more tolerant. Yeah.
Like if I want to be an activist about something, I'll do it. But like I don't want the leagues doing. I don't really care if the athletes individually have an opinion on things, because they're human beings. They're entitled to their opinion and they have a platform. Maybe they feel an obligation to talk about that. But I have a problem when the leagues are doing that and making it sort of uniform. Like, we're going to put Black Lives Matter on the hardwood court for all of the playoff games in the bubble. And it's like, dude, you guys don't even know what you're marketing here. But once again, it's probably back to that, like, extortion by BLM.
I mean, it seems like it. I mean, I'm not trying to bust you out. If you're working, in business with those people. I mean, or with a lot of different, what I mean, with your corporate or one of your gigs. I don't want to put words in your mouth, say it wrong, what have you. But it's weird, man. It's an awful. On top of that, the NBA. I don't know if you watched any of it. I mean, were the Nuggets in? Are you? What are you a fan? What team?
I'm watching. Well, I have.
I mean, who's your squad? I mean, for your heart, come on.
It's weird because we have clients on a bunch of the teams, so it's like a fantasy. It's always been like watching fantasy football to me. I'll be like, ooh, I want the Lakers because we've got Rick Fox, but I also want the Nuggets because we have Carmelo. Back then, so it'd be like, I kind of want both. So yeah, I'm watching all the games. I'm watching them.
So it's weird. And I mean, the Milwaukee, I've had it tough. 30 plus years, and I grew up in Racine, which is just south of Milwaukee, just north of Chicago. So I've had Jordan. We get local Chicago channels too. So growing up, I was like, shit. Watching Jordan all in his prime, I was like, damn it. And then, but I chose the Bucks, so I've been with them forever. And now having Giannis with all this nonsense, it's just like, yeah, the 1 year. And that's kind of the funny thing is like. That's how I ended up getting like weird information because my ex-wife works Fox Sports, blah blah blah. So I just knew some things a little bit early, and it's just like, what the hell, and I couldn't believe that they kind of went on, without. They were like, well, no fans. I was like, all right, and then I'm just like, people are gonna freaking freak out when they get this news, right? Like this is gonna send people in a panic more than saying the virus is here. Like, we already knew it was here. We already knew it's caught with our pants down. I mean, people are going around saying, it's not real. It doesn't exist. I can't buy that. Like, I just don't. I think it's kind of, I don't know. That's just.
It can be real and not that deadly
exactly.
At the same time.
Exactly. I mean, and it also can be real. Like, yeah, it's the same, never let a good crisis go to waste. So, I mean, we got caught with our pants on. A lot of people being like, it's a plan. They knew it. They did it on purpose. Like, wait a minute. Yeah, they did all this shit on purpose because that's what the government always does and the people in power. But at the same time, it's like, clearly, I think from the Woodward tapes or what have you, after hearing them, Donald Trump didn't. I mean, that's a confessional essentially, right? It's like, yeah, it's really deadly too. They say it's more deadly than the flu. Well, there you have it right there. It's not like, yeah, they knew and they unleashed it, or they knew and they had a plan for it. It's like, no, clearly they didn't. They didn't want to. Why, you know? So I mean, but I'm not going to die on any of those hills. It's ridiculous to, deny reality. I don't understand that. And a lot of people, acquaintances, are just outright deny it completely, like that it even exists. And I remember thinking, oh, like I was thinking about writing like an article. I was like, well, I'm gonna write a piece on this about how like New York City has to be ground zero for everything. And it's kind of like a sit back and watch, take the temperature of the nation sort of situation, where it's like a slow burn bio 9/11 event sort of situation. I remember thinking that, and then literally 5 minutes later, I pull in the parking lot. I'm about to go in the grocery store, and my buddy, I texted my buddy to see how he was doing, and he called me, and he could barely speak. And he's 35 years old. He's probably the most healthy friend I have. Doesn't really smoke, drink, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, all that's, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he sounded like he was dying. No joke. He could barely form words. He's like, I'm in the hospital. I got admitted. This was like a Tuesday when I was speaking to him, and he said he got admitted on like a Saturday. His 80% of his left lung was completely filled with fluid. He had no other symptoms whatsoever. Now, I said, well, what are the test results? Like, what, did they tested you for COVID? They're like, yeah, we don't have the results yet. And I was like, okay, so they're assuming, so they treated him with the Z-Pack and the Hydro, whatever. And he was getting much better. All the fluid was gone. That apparently worked, or whatever concoction they had given him worked. And he was released, I believe, 24 hours after I spoke with him. And the funny thing is when the doctors came in to give him the news on his COVID, whatever, I don't care if we can say it or not, it doesn't matter, his COVID results, they were negative. So he had like a team of, he said like 8 doctors came in his room to give him that news. It's like, wow. So they were all conferring together like, this is really weird, but we're going to assume you just had it, and it's a false negative. So, I mean, you have these weird stories, and this is my best friend, like the dude you'd call at 3 o'clock in the morning if you just got in an accident, hit somebody on a dark road and you had to do something horrible that you don't. Yeah, he'd be the first person he'd answer the phone, come rescue, and have to look. He'd be the one to look at you and be like, not a word of this to anybody. You know what I mean? Like that's how close of a friend this is. And so, I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. That's the only person that I have. I have, I guess, 2 of my members, like cousins. I've got 2 cousins that have had it in Green Bay. And I know there was like a big outbreak, quote unquote outbreak. I don't know. I wasn't there. But yeah, his wife had it. He had it. So I don't know. It's weird. But to throw everything out there and be like, nope, it's not real. It doesn't exist. It's like, okay.
Yeah, and then there's the flip side of that, which is when they're interviewing people like on the street or something, they're saying, tell me, what percentage of Americans do you think have died from coronavirus? People are like, 13% of America, yeah, for sure. And you're like, wait, what? Like, so there are a lot of people out there that are going out into the world with this belief that 13% of America has already died from it. And right. And so it's like, well, no wonder you're flipping out if someone isn't wearing a mask. If the number was 13% and and it really was like, let's just say that was an accurate number. Well, shit. I think everyone would have a different perspective on this. So it's like, but like, hey, sir, let me tell you where the number really is. It's much lower than that, But I think some people now have embraced this new normal, which I hate even saying because you don't want to make that term. You don't even want to give it energy.
Yeah.
But I think people have gone through that transition period, which was painful, and they've accepted this new version of reality. And now it's like you go up to them and you go, listen, it's not as bad as we thought it was. We can knock all this bullshit off and come back to some version of what it was before. And they're like,
horns.
They're like, I'm good with my mask and my gloves and my goggles and my fear and my face shield and all that stuff. Like they're kind of they don't want to move again. So,
And it doesn't it feel like Lee? Doesn't it feel like our friend, our friend Q might have had something to do with that? Also, I really believe it did. I mean, honestly, it's Lee.
Yeah, like I says, the whole LARPing of that stuff with the Pizzagate stuff is kind of gotten out of control now. It's kind of a hot topic. We call it the Q bump. When people talk about this stuff, they get a lot more subs, a lot more people coming in arguing about adrenochrome, the underground military bases with mole kids in them, and all that crazy stuff. So it's kind of crazy how when you start looking into this stuff a little bit more, it goes, like I said, it's everywhere.
Right. So wait, what have you found? Like when you're busting these fools out, like what? Why don't you tell us some of the things you like discovered while, discovering? Obviously, this is a LARP. But I mean, why don't you fill us in on? Because I mean, I talk to you off air sometimes, what have you, and it's just like, I can't. Holy shit! There's so much here. This is insane. And I mean, it's it's a disgusting, gross LARP. But go ahead though, Lee.
The way I like to look at it now is that there's two different things. There's the LARP and there's the movement. Unfortunately, people don't know about Jordan Sather and Dr. Tammy and Daniel John Lee and the Patriot Soapbox group and then the Cicada Boys with the Bakers. So like I said, all that stuff kind of got exposed a couple of years ago, but people are still through like Jerome Corsi and them. They got mixed up in that stuff with Robert David Steele and Jason Goodman and George Webb and Dave Acton and DeFango and all them. So it's actually kind of ended up in a couple of different courtrooms now, with the Thomas Schoenberger court case with Gabe Hoffman, and then the RDS Goodman case, and a few other things going on out there. Some of these people don't realize that this whole thing started with this mega Making America Great idea. And they brought in General Flynn's Where We Go One, We Go All inscription on his bell and made that into the hashtag for this stuff. And then recently the qmap.pub page was taken down. Now that's supposedly connected to the 8kun people with them, but there's, like I said, it's just a lot of people running around doing a lot of speculation there. So that's where you have to separate the LARP from the different conspiracy theories that these guys were mixing together on these different maps and discussing it on a lot of different YouTube channels. And now that they're writing Daily Mail articles with Will Sumner and all those other guys, like I said, it's just a very hot topic.
Hey, Lee, do you think that they intended for it to be this big, or do you think that they just started and it kind of like a brush fire kind of just got out of control and now they're just trying to just keep the whole thing going?
I think so. Like I said, with that Neon Revolt guy who wrote the original book. And then Dustin Nemos came out with that second book with Pamphlet and all those people. And then they lost control of the Trip Code on 4chan. Like I says, I think that's when a lot of people were like going, oh my God, these guys made $60,000+ off of a book. And that doesn't include the ad revenue that they're making off of the YouTube channel and other cross promotions that they were doing.
I mean, is it a money-making operation? Like, what do you think is the motivation for this? Is this?
I think it's a huge money-making scheme.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, when they started incorporating the Yellow Vest movement over in France about a year and a half ago, and some stuff went down with what's called Doxgate and Tromagate with the Pizzagate community when that gunk Dave Tottashini and those guys were exposed. It's been a very contentious issue because there was people in these supposed groups that were supposedly exposing pedophiles and stuff that got caught up with people that were actually already convicted of being what they were trying to expose themselves. Mm. So when that guy Timothy Holmseth came along, he's been basically harassing a woman for 10 years. These other guys didn't know about that stuff, I guess is the best way to put it. And he jumped on to their narrative. And so that's where it went off the rails about a year ago with Timothy Holmseth and Daniel John Lee and Field McConnell. So that's why, like I said, it's such a crazy story to try to explain to people, because half the people completely know the whole entire story, and then the other half the people have not one clue of what you're talking about at all.
What's Field McConnell's role in this whole thing?
Like I said, he was, him and David Hawkins were doing the whole 9/11 exposure through Christine Marcy with the, what was that?
With Jason Goodman.
Yeah. So, like I said, George Webb came up and split those guys up. And like I said, it's Field McConnell actually went to jail in Florida for harassing and breaking a restraining order against a lady by the name of Kim Picasio. So that was where that was being exposed. I do believe that there's actually a warrant out for his arrest right now, too. Timothy Holmseth himself.
Wow.
A lot of people just don't know that this stuff is out there, that these people are exploiting these stories. Like I said, it became very evident to me when that Onision, Shane Dawson, Jacob Wool stuff kind of came to light.
I'm not familiar with that. What's the story on that?
Like I said, Shane Dawson was just made some inappropriate videos about.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's right.
Like I said, it all kind of came out, and it was really weird because, like I said, I guess Wool and some of the people came out with some videos saying that Melania Trump had been raped. It was crazy what some people were posting out there. And like I said, that's when I was just like, oh my God, none of this stuff that I was looking into and researching is real at all. These are guys acting and LARPing, but they're, like I said, they would play different characters and they would switch roles, they would switch teams, they would flip-flop back and forth. And so, like I said, it was like there's like an original 12 people doing this stuff. And now they're all beefing with each other. And like I said, other people got dumped into this stuff, kind of is the best way to put it. And they don't get why they're, like I said, a lot of people are now trolling all over YouTube about this stuff using the same rhetoric, the same hashtags. And like I said, when they started using the hashtag Save the Children with the rallies, was when like I said, they had the big rally in Berlin, London, LA, and a bunch of other places across America. And that was just the other weekend. So like I said, that's when I was just sitting there going, I can't explain it that well to people because I got to be careful about people who don't know about this stuff, who started looking into this stuff, not knowing that there's a complete, QAnon victims like subreddit page out there that people have died. Jenny Moore, Isaac Cappy, Tracy Twyman, Bucky Wolf, and so many people have, like I said, as they've been buying these books, they're following these YouTubers and making super chats and donating to their GoFundMe accounts. And it got really crazy when the Shadowgate stuff happened with Millie Weaver, Torces, and Ali Alexander with Fergie. And that's kind of current time where I'm at right now.
Sorry about that, guys. I had to step away for a minute.
No worries.
So, I heard you say Millie Weaver. I'm sorry, whenever I hear that name, like that name Millie Weaver, like doesn't that sound like, just sounds fake to me. Like, who's naming their kid Millie Weaver? Like, that's the most great-grandma name I've ever heard in my life, I think. I don't know about you guys, but seriously, Millie Weaver.
Wonder
like,
what it means.
That's like Dr. Andy Kaufman. Like, give me a freaking break, dude. Sorry. But fuck that guy, too. Yeah. I don't give a shit. I don't care. Fuck that guy. Fraud. It just screams.
It means industrious. Millie means industrious.
Does it?
So she's an industrious weaver.
Of lies, yeah.
Of lies.
She's a fraud, dude. I don't. Where did she come from? I remember seeing her on Twitter, and immediately it's like, what? who is this person trying to capitalize on more? You know what I mean? Just really, just hop in the LARP, guys. Come on, ride
She used
the
to work
bandwagon.
for InfoWars but now she's been let go.
So wait a minute. She was working. Well, whatever. I don't give a shit. We're talking about whatever. So wait a minute. So she was working for InfoWars, but prior to, you've heard?
Yeah, her.
Really?
And then we're with Alex. Alex has actually made videos saying that they kind of like finagled him into this stuff.
I remember. I think I saw some clip or something like that with where it actually had him saying, because they put that Roger Stone something in there. And I'm a fan of Roger Stone because he's a piece of shit and he admits it. And that Netflix I'm not a fan, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't hate the guy. I think it's hilarious. And I remember watching that Netflix documentary, Get Me Roger Stone.
Tattoo is yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a total creep, dude. And he owns it, though, which is phenomenal to me. It's like, why can't people just be more like him? Well, that'd be awful. But, I mean, be a creep, own it, dude. That's the best way to do it. Clearly. But I mean, I remember Alex Jones coming on the air and saying something about like, yeah, well, get rid of Millie Weaver or something. Not get rid of her, but there's some footage in there trying to demonize. And I was like, okay, well, I don't give a shit. I'm glad. Thanks for summing that all up. I don't care. But yeah, I don't. So she made this documentary, Shadowgate, whatever, with Tori something. I remember hearing that name. And yeah, I don't know. It's making everything like, all right, so I get the hate, the left and what have you. It doesn't even comes from everywhere. It comes from every angle, but they use that and then use that to anytime we start to question, like people that aren't, necessarily like centrist views and what have you, are not even centrist. I'm just saying, don't play the politics game, period. Making all the research look like shit and just ruining it, and that's awful. But that's why this show, I don't care. Like, this is fun. I'm going to talk shit about it because anything it needs to have shit talked about it. It's going to get done here.
And that's you can just talk about it very openly, and it's easy because, like I said, a lot of people are watching this story right now. And I thought the information that came out about the side group with Dynology, with Bergie and them, while I knew it from a year ago, other people didn't. So
right.
Being brought to the right places is good for people who do like freedom of speech.
For sure.
And like I says, a lot of people are running around accusing Millie, or not Millie, but Tor, of being stolen valor because she's only done 9 months and then she was subcontracting and blah, 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 blah. But like I said, that's another one of those things. It's a he said, she said situation, and you can debate that till you're blue in the face.
Right. And isn't that, those are the handles you're talking about. They're like internet handles and what have you, or whatever, right?
Well, like I said, that's one of the things from what I've tried to understand is the way these subcontractors work through the social engineering platforms and companies. That like I said, I guess it's Prism and Palantir information that they were using to data mine and data track people is where it really comes down to that. So ultimately,
there's a lot of theories out there on who it is and who's behind it, right? And I personally like to subscribe to the Steve Bannon. That just makes the most sense to me. Steve Bannon is like Roger Stone level shithead,
Right.
And it just makes, he's got the money. He's a failure in Hollywood. Yeah, didn't he have something with Sean Penn or something like that? I remember years and years ago, some failure. I know he failed in Hollywood, and then
Penn got Escobar arrested, so interesting.
He got who? Escobar?
Yeah, well, then he did that interview down there, then he was like arrested a week later.
Oh, yeah, so he basically busted that dude. I mean, and then he goes on I think it was like June 4th. Charlie, did you see that June 4th where he went to he got on some yacht, some multi-million-dollar yacht in front of the statue? What the hell is that about? In international waters, signing some, I think it was qualified as international waters. I'm not exactly sure, but then taking like that blood oath. What?
That was crazy.
It's WWF, but I can't. The dude is nuts. Like, I don't. What do you make of that, dude?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of Bannon. I'm with you on Roger Stone though. He's kind of a cartoon character. You know, I mean, I kind of, on the one hand, I appreciate that he's willing to admit what a scumbag he is,
Right.
because so few, you know, it's like, at least you're one of the few that admit it. You know, I'm not saying that I approve of it. But Bannon, I put Bannon in that same category as Podesta. You know, these guys that are close to the president, selling influence, and who the fuck knows what that means? You know, who knows what can come out of that? And I'm not trying to say he's a pedophile like the Podestas are. Maybe he is. I don't know. But you know, these people that are so close to the president that they can make things happen for other people. It's like a de facto lobbyist. And then, you know, and guys like that are always shady to begin with, and then they wind up interacting with other people that are shady, because you kind of have to be a sketchy individual if you're like, oh, I'm going to go give this guy a bunch of money so that he can have the president change some things to benefit me. Like, if you have that mentality, you're fucking crazy. So you've got an interaction. People are like, oh, why is Washington, D.C. so screwed up? It's like a magnet for the worst types of people. You know, psychopaths and people that want power and money or fame or little boys or all of those things. They all migrate there. They're all defective human beings, like, by default. And then you get them all in a room and then flood the place with $1 trillion of money that gets washed here and there, and lobbyists and law firms and Wall Street and, you know, offshore account. I mean, it's just it's like chumming the water for psychopaths and pedophiles and narcissists and lunatics. And of course, that's Congress. Like, in a nutshell.
Precisely, Congress. Precisely.
So
That's exactly right. It's a good summation. Seriously, I mean, and ultimately, Lee, I know I stepped away for a minute. I'm sorry about that, you guys, but so I'm curious to know, how the hell do you end up essentially this hitman, the unpaid hitman?
Luck, a lot of luck.
But seriously though, how do you stumble into this shit? I mean, I mean, whatever you could leave out, obviously, but I'm curious. I don't think I've ever even asked you that off air. So,
like I said, 5 years ago, I was just on YouTube. A lot of my friends had podcasts, from Kev Baker, Popeye Dearth. I was introduced to them through a guy named Liam Shift. And it started from there. And like I said, it's just, you know, you catch on and you get sucked into these different pockets of YouTube. And you start noticing people use certain rhetorics. And it's just interesting, you know, like I said, and then people start arguing about neurolinguistic programming and Hegelian dialectics. Next thing you know, you're arguing over if the earth is hollow or flat or other crazy stuff. And there's so much, like I said, we started making a joke about it 3 years ago. It's called YouTube psychosis.
it's very real.
Right. And like I said, and we actually got that term from that Nasheem Harriman lady, who was the original YouTube shooter that went and shot up YouTube and was actually murdered herself. And so that's when we started realizing this isn't a joke so much, you know, while we make fun of it, because there's so many trolls and people are running around on YouTube calling each other shills. And I mean, I can't imagine the kind of emails that Charlie gets. And
I just got called a CIA asset for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I was so excited. I felt like
about time, dude. You didn't give me that before.
Like, I mean, really? Shit. I was, frankly, I was a bit offended that it hadn't happened.
I'm offended that it hasn't happened to me. Seriously, man, what the hell? Your book's been out. Like, that's a tome. That is like, that's gospel.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy out there, because it's like you don't know who to trust. You don't know who to believe. You don't know, I mean, I know that, like, if somebody comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden has a ton of subscribers or they're not getting shadow banned the way everybody else is, everyone starts looking at them a little funny, like, hey, who are you? How come you're growing so fast? And the rest of maybe you work for, maybe you know somebody. Hey, wait a second. Maybe you're a fucking social engineer. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God. And that's exhausting. And it's enough that we have to deal with these maniacs running the world that we're trying to talk about and expose and do what we can to, ring the alarm bell. Now we have to see if our favorite YouTube person is actually who they say they are. I mean, that adds a frustrating level to it as well. Or the flip side is that somebody that's actually authentic that you really like and you've been watching on YouTube for 3 or 4 years in a row pretty consistently, all of a sudden they're gone. That's even worse.
That is
like,
weird.
shit.
Yeah.
So, did YouTube throw them off or, so we're getting silencing of trusted sources, at least, people that we believe to be trusted sources. We're seeing them having their reach reduced and their subscribers, people unsubscribed. I got my personal YouTube username in my macroaggressions YouTube channel. It's two different accounts, but same.
Right.
I got unsubscribed from following my own podcast.
Wow.
Like, why would I do that? And I don't have I have like 2,500 people on my YouTube channel. It's new. I mean, it's new.
Yeah.
Nothing going on there. But like, I got unsubscribed from myself.
That's insane.
Yeah, and I caught it, and I was like, "That is idiotic. Like, what are we doing here?" So we've got to fight. We got to fight everybody. It seems
fighting
like.
robots.
And we got to be paranoid about who we're talking to. If that guy, if this guy is, a shill, and you're like, "Oh, well, you did a show with that guy. You don't know who that guy is." Like, apparently I don't, or whatever. So. It's all just so aggravating.
And how can that? I know. And how? Like, okay, shoot me if I get to that level where I'm calling you're a shill, where I'm emailing Charlie Robinson and calling him a shill. Shoot me.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get to this level of crazy? I don't understand that. It's just, it's insane to me. And
I mean, people get emotional about stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, on the one hand, I appreciate the passion, even if it's misguided. Like, even with this Q stuff, it's frustrating to me. But I also am thinking, like, well, okay, what if this was the one thing that at least woke these people up to the idea that there's some fuckery going on at the highest levels of government? I can't complain about that. I can't complain about them. I can complain because it wakes them up to that, and then immediately tries to put them on the red team. I don't love that, but
sucks.
I do. I mean, I guess if we're in a world where you're either awake or asleep, if something like this wakes people up, I'd rather they be awoken to this in the correct manner, obviously. But
Right.
I do like that the casual observer, be it because of Jeffrey Epstein or because of Q or whatever, now your soccer mom has it in her head on some level that there's child trafficking operations being run. And maybe because we get every soccer mom in the world to at least have the thought in their head that these things exist, maybe that puts us one step closer to making sure that the
kids are safe.
kids are safe and that these things get closed down. So I mean, I can't argue if it leads to that.
And seriously, Charlie, thank you for bringing that around that way, because it's true. Because I mean, yeah, we talk all the shit in the world about this kind of thing. Yeah, and it's annoying at the most, right? I'd rather be annoyed than have children violated, and you know what I'm saying? At least this is something like we can talk shit about it and laugh at it and blah blah blah. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we've got to look at this as some sort of positive out of it. You can take the LARP as far as you want to take it. You know what I mean? But these are usually the people that are emailing you, calling you the shill, right? These are the people that are usually. I mean, fuck that. These are people emailing people. You're going out of your way to call somebody a name saying, "Oh, you work for, fill in the blank, elite." But yeah, I mean, it is a positive thing. It really is.
I want to try and like wake up as many people as possible to all of these things. It's not my job. I mean, it's not my. It's just something I feel passionate about. Like, like I'm not religious, but some people are very religious, and then they get enthusiastic about their religion, and then they want to talk to everybody about that, and so I understand that now. I understand that that feeling, and I don't mean to. I guess I don't mean to connect the conspiracy industry or research world to a religion necessarily, but I'm just talking about the enthusiasm that you get for like, okay, I have this information. I feel like it's really important to me. I think it would be important to everybody else because we're all making decisions in our life based on this information, and we're getting lied to about this and that and the other thing. And I think it's important that if we're all going to make these decisions, we at least have the right information. So I'm trying to do what I can. And then, of course, you get called crazy for doing that, which is fun. So, but that, I guess, comes with the territory. So it's like, on the one hand, anything that gets this conversation happening about these dark forces at work, I think is a good thing. So it's like I kind of, on one hand, welcome the Q people into the conversation, but I also am like, you're gonna have to leave that Q
sit
shit
on the sidelines. Yeah, seriously, sit on the sidelines, shut your mouth.
Yeah,
just watch. You know?
Yeah. Like, I'm glad you're at the party, but like, you're gonna have to leave your date over there because this is bullshit.
Straight up. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, leave your date over there. Calm down. Chill out, dude.
Let's
Sit
talk
down.
about some real shit. We don't have to go making up things. We don't have to go LARPing about these doing quatrain readings like Nostradamus. We don't have to bother with any of that. There is plenty of actual, real, scary stuff going on that we can focus on. That we don't even have to get into the realm of conspiracy theory. We're in conspiracy analysis now. Right. It's the theories years ago. Now we're analyzing these things that are very real, and so it's like, if we focused on that, we can maybe make a dent in this. But I get it. There's a cottage industry of making videos and getting ad revenue, or like you said, writing books. Like you can do these things and make. And I'm an author. I write books. I have another job too, but this is my hobby. This is what I like to do. But when you get into it and create this as a form of like you've got the business plan sort of, and you're like, oh, we're going to do this, and then we're going to sell merch, and then we're going to have this many subscribers. Like, oh, okay, stop sounding like an
A&R
crusade. It's a crusade for something you believe in, and it sounds more like you wrote a business plan when you were getting your MBA, and you chose the idea of creating this psychological operation and monetizing it.
It's insane. It's insane.
Weird.
I mean, yeah, it is a cottage industry. It's weird to think of it like that. But that's kind of weird. Isn't that how Jim wasn't familiar. Jim hasn't, with your background. And I was like, oh shit, you don't shit. How, okay. And yeah, I mean, I know you've told it a million times, but you were working in real estate, and your story is fascinating because I've used it twice, I want to say, maybe in trying to get some, like, look, this dude is blood, you know what I mean? And to people that have been very, very close-minded about this kind of thing. And It's like, you've actually been the dude to your story is the story that, okay, you got my ears pricked up. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
if you don't mind, I don't want to, be.
No, I'll tell. Right. So I was living and working in Las Vegas, and I don't live in Las Vegas, but I still work in Las Vegas in real estate. So, but I was selling new homes, and it was spring of 2007, and I was about to go on a trip, and my buddy gave me a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. And I read that book during my trip, and it changed my life because what he talks about, he was an economic hitman. and he worked for a big multinational engineering firm called Maine, which is the equivalent of like Halliburton. And what he would do is he would interact with presidents of countries, and he would approach them and say, listen, you've got like the right topography here in Ecuador to put a hydroelectric power plant here. It'd be great. It would generate this much energy. You could sell the energy for this much money. It'll more than cover the costs of doing it. I've already got deals lined up with you from the World Bank and the IMF. This is all the financials. This is how, and so some of these guys would say, sure, they would sign up for this. And what they would find is that it didn't generate as much energy as they promised it would. It didn't generate as much money. They fall behind on their payments. And then the World Bank and IMF start to put the screws to them and say, well, you owe us a lot of money and you haven't paid, but we can work something out. So you vote our way in a UN resolution, or you privatize your fishing industry and let our buddies buy it, or you put a U.S. military base there, or you do one of these, whatever. And I was like, holy shit, I am living this in a smaller scale. I'm in Las Vegas. I'm selling new homes. We have our own lender in-house, and we are approving people for $400,000 homes that make $10 an hour. And it is never going to work for them, but they're approved for it. So they think they can afford it, but they can't. And what's going to happen is that the banks are going to wind up taking back these tangible assets. We don't give a shit because we're just going to sell the house, and then it's your problem if you default on it. But you're getting this loan. And so the loan standards were increasingly dropping too. So it was like, it wasn't like if your credit score was like 680, you were getting approved. If it was dropping to 620, it was like, well, we can still find something for you. So all these really bad these loans. And then, of course, 2 years later, they all blew up in everybody's faces and took down the whole real estate market, and myself included. So I sort of learned from that that got me thinking about the role of money and the banks and how it works and how dirty that is. And then the TARP thing happened where Wall Street took all this money, and then I started getting involved in learning about central banking and things like that. And so I'd already had this 9/11 was 9/11 was not as it appeared. I already knew that a couple years early, maybe 2004, probably 2004. But the financial component was new to me, and I felt like I was at the carnival playing 3-card Monte, and I just kept losing. And I just finally said, I want to know how the game works. Like, I want to know, okay, I know you're scamming me. I want to know what the scam is. I want to understand it. And from working in real estate and having the tight connection with mortgage, because they go hand in hand, I started to learn about how dirty the mortgage industry was as well. And it just is like, it just opens your eyes. Like, all of the marketplaces are rigged, like Forex, LIBOR, COMEX. They've all been busted for rigging markets. All the banks have been busted. They've, felonies and everything. So the marketplaces are rigged. The mortgage industry is rigged. The government, in the central banks are criminal organizations. I mean, the central banks are criminal organizations masquerading as banking institutions. And I just didn't know any of this. So it woke me up to it, and it took me, like everyone, you just kind of, you pull on one thread, and next thing you know, it's 4:00 in the morning and you're researching deep underground military bunkers, and you don't know how that happened, but you're like, this is fascinating as hell.
Right? Because who doesn't love that's one of the coolest, like, even if you're not into this at all, that's one of the coolest things ever. You know what I mean?
Watching Phil Schneider videos and everything, you're in.
Totally. So I remember, I think I remember hearing this, and I don't know if I'm totally correct or not, but I think I remember hearing you say you snuck it in when you were working or something like that, and you writing the book?
Oh, I wrote the book. I didn't,
how did that go down?
I didn't tell.
That's so wild. Tell us a little.
I didn't tell anyone I was writing the book. in part, at first it started off because I didn't want to be like, hey man, I'm writing a book and then not write it, not finish
and put
it.
that bad energy. People, yeah, that's not a good thing to do.
And then just have people for the next couple of years going, hey man, how'd that book come out? And you're like, oh, I never really finished it. I didn't want to do that. So I just didn't want to set any sort of expectations because I wasn't sure if I was going to follow through. I didn't know how I would feel. Then once I started on it, I didn't want to stop. And then I was afraid if I told people I was writing it that someone would make me stop. And then So nobody knew about it until the book arrived. It literally, my wife opened up this box and it was filled with books, and she flipped it over and saw my picture on the back and said, "Get out," and threw me out of the house for 2 days because I was emotionally cheating on her. And I have, of course, I was like,
I get it. Yeah.
I get it, but like, I could have a secret, like double life, like a second family in Utah, right? I mean, this could be a whole lot worse than me just writing a book behind your back. So she's on board now. But at the time, I just felt like if I told her I was writing it, she might be like, this is not a great.
And that'll screw up your entire stream of, like when you're going, that's going to screw up all your, that's going to just, and I mean, from a creative standpoint too, that's just being a musician, that would that would just ruin it. That would ruin it.
Yeah, and last year I wound up in London doing this show Renegade Inc. for RT, and it's with this guy named Ross Ashcroft, who's the host of it. And he wrote and directed a great documentary called Four Horsemen that I think a lot of people might have seen, and it's about the financial collapse. And when we were done filming, we were just sitting on the set talking, and he was saying, I was telling him how I wrote the book in secret. I mentioned it on the show, and then when we were done, he said, John Perkins, who wrote Confessions of an Economic Hitman, the book that inspired me, John Perkins is like the central character in that Four Horsemen documentary. So when we were talking about that, Ross said, John Perkins wrote his book in total silence too. Didn't tell anybody he was writing it. Did the exact same thing you did. I was like, what? I had no idea. And he's like, yeah. He said he felt like if he told somebody what he was writing about, they would make him stop, or he, they wouldn't be, And I was like, holy shit! Like, I'm totally inspired by that book, and I didn't even realize that I wrote mine the same way that he wrote his. And I'm not trying to say that I haven't sold 5 million copies either, but like he has but there's
what a
still
sync.
time.
What a sync though. Seriously.
But yeah, it was weird. I was like, well, cool. I mean, I don't know how people write books. Most people, I would imagine, don't hide it that they're writing books. So I knew that I was doing it backwards from the way most people do it. But in the end, I'm glad I did it the way I did it. And after that, my wife is sort of understands. Like, she was with me in London. She was like, okay, we're at like a real studio. Wow, people with television shows want to talk to you. I was like,
yeah,
like, I mean, shit, I did write this crazy ass book. I mean, some people have even read it. So, so now I have more support at home for that stuff, which is helpful.
Totally, man. And that's what's wild too. It's like you put all this effort in, you do it, and then you've got doubters, you got, people are just like, yeah, cool, good job, keep it up, all right, I'll see you next week. Like that kind of, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, yeah, you've actually been doing, okay, oh, I had no idea, you know what I mean? Well, let me, and then there, so I mean, and honestly, like, that book is like a staple, like, what year did it come out? What year did you release it?
2017.
2017. Yeah. Holy shit, all right, but 2017, damn.
So I still have Trump stuff in there. I was able to get some good.
Yeah, so you got the perfect cut for like getting just, like getting some of this stuff in here current. Yeah, that seems, that's, yeah.
And we've got a new book that I wrote with Jeff Berwick from Dollar Vigilante and Anarchapulco that we're just finishing. I just got his final edits for it. So that's coming out in the next couple of weeks, and called The Controlled Demolition of the American Empire. And we were able to get in all the COVID stuff too, which is nice because we were just about to be done and finish it. And this thing kicked off, and I was like, we need to wait we need to wait and see how this plays out just a couple more months. And Jeff's like, let's hang tight and see what happens. So we were able to put that in there. So that's what the delay is, because I've been telling people about it for the last couple months, but it's like, that was the delay. It was a good delay. I mean, it's a bad situation, but it's good that we were able to, because if you put out a book right now and you're not talking about that, it's kind of like, well, how relevant is it? So we were able to go back in and not just add like a chapter at the end, but to actually infuse it in throughout all the chapters to help make our point. So that'll be coming out soon. I'll make sure you guys get a copy when it's available.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, man. So yeah, I remember you talking about that, and I think I remember hearing you tell us this too. But so as far as it's gone, are you still in? I'm just curious. Are you still in real estate?
Yeah.
Or are you still okay?
Yeah.
So did you? Made the move from? Did you make?
We're in the real estate / television business now, because my partners, my business partners, are husband and wife, and we had a show, Flip or Flop Vegas, on HGTV. So we're not only doing real estate, but we're also doing television as well.
Production stuff.
So, and they always get a kick out of this, and I'm always tripped out when I get text messages from them and they're like, "Dude, I just heard Alex Jones say this or that." I'm like, "Whoa, you're listening to this stuff too?" I mean, so it's funny to have that infusion of
it's got to be
television personalities that also read not the mainstream news. They're also reading all this alternative stuff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this stuff is bullshit. This COVID stuff is bullshit."
Right. And thank God we have some people in that area that are, I'm not going to say the word, I'm not going to say it, that are hip to this.
Yeah.
So that's good. Another thing, I mean, it's got to be cool. I remember, well, at least when I first got introduced to these topics, I think it was like 2000 and, I mean, obviously 9/11, that was weird. And being, I think I was 19 when that happened. So, or 20. But it doesn't matter. The thing is, that kind of made me go, yeah, I wasn't cool with this anyway. Now this is really weird. I remember seeing we found the passport. I was like, this is just too much. Obviously it was shock and awe for everybody. It was like, what the horrible. But the thing is I got introduced to Alex Jones and David Icke by the same person, same day, what have you, and they were, they're tied together for some weird ass reason. I think because David Icke was on his, info. But I remember I lived in Austin in 03 and 04 and 05, and I remember, having, it was a Prison Planet. I think he was tied in with Prison Planet there and Adbusters and getting all that stuff and being, all right. And the fact that then when he went with, when he went all Donald Trump, that's when I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. This is against my punk rock everything. Kind of like the second you claim a party or you claim anything and you think these people have our best interest in mind, I question you. And I not only do I question you, I'm gonna start talking shit about you probably. Not that
I felt the same way.
Yeah, I felt like I got stabbed in the back, dude. I was like, are you kidding? Now, and then he gets censored, and I remember that, and I have a ton of friends that are, musicians and touring and blah blah blah, and now they're saying, yeah, good, shut him up, and I'm like, dude, no, this isn't the person you want to martyr and free speech.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, what happened? Just because we disagree with his political leanings doesn't mean you shut him up. And I get it. It's a platform. It's a social media platform. I understand that. And so you can't really make the free speech argument because you consented to this. You signed up when you made your account. Sorry. That's their platform. They can do what they want. It sucks. Yeah. And I think it's awful. But, to where we are now, where, like the shadow banning and just outright, how egregious is that? I mean, geez, let's take your own away. That it's insane to me. But getting back around to like the David, you got in with I believe with the Iconic Media, which is which was just Gareth and Jamie's project, right?
Yeah. I've got my show is on Iconic, which is crazy for me because it's like the two people that were heavily inspiring to me writing the book was John Perkins and David Icke. And then to go, I was at an Acapulco 2 years ago and able to chat with him for a little bit there as well, and we swapped books and talked for a minute. It's a trip. And then to be on Iconic, I can't believe it, really. I'm thrilled because I like them. I like what they're doing. I like where they're going with it. I like, my mom likes David Icke. My mom watches David Icke. And she's like, he's just making a whole lot of sense. I'm like, yes, he does. He makes a whole lot of sense. There's so many people that are like, oh, is he the reptilian guy? Oh, is he the anti-Semite? Or all, whatever sort of terms have been thrown out about. It's like, just listen to him for
30 minutes.
25 minutes and then tell me what you think. You're not going to, he's not off the rails. He's a totally logical, reasonable human being, and a nice guy on top of that. So it's those were the people that kind of woke me up to this. Alex Jones, same thing though. I have to give him credit because in the early days he was waking me up. I mean, once he got into the Trump camp, I was like, that's not my jam. I'm not really into that. But we've been watching him lately because he's been having Jay Dyer co-host
the Fourth Hour, dude.
And Jay's like, we're all in this group Telegram chat, this Union of the Unwanted Telegram chat. So Jay's like, hey, I'm going on in like 10 minutes with Sam Tripoli, and we're like, oh geez. So we all were like watching it live and everything. So like I'll watch InfoWars if it's going to be someone on there like that for sure. But I'm with you. I feel like he kind of lost. He lost to a certain extent some of his audience or maybe some of his credibility when you partner with one team or the other, when it's like, hang on a second, you have been rightly accusing both sides of horrible shit for the last 15 years. This is not a time to pick sides. You got to remain objective. I like the fact that I hate both sides just as much. I don't trust either one of them. So I just sit, I'm not cheering for either team. I know some people say, well, that's very convenient of you. It's like, well, it's actually very inconvenient because I'm in such a small minority that I don't have too many people on my side, because when I criticize Trump, everyone's like, fuck you, you Democrat. I'm like, I'm not a Democrat. Or if I say anything about, Joe Biden's mental capacity, they're like, oh yeah, you and your Trump. It's like, who said that I'm on Trump's side? Nobody.
Exactly.
I don't like either of these people. Just because your person's defective don't make the assumption that I'm pulling for the other team, because there's I don't like either side. But so Alex, I think, lost a lot of people when he kind of made that, when he kind of took a side, and that happens. I mean, I'm sure
the originals, like his Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah, I would prefer he being back in the middle, fighting both sides equally, but whatever.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, that really hurt me though. Honestly, like, I don't know, like it really just felt like I was stabbed in the back. Just like, really? I mean, I was trailing away, wasn't really, tune in every now and then. Like, what nonsense? What crazy? What's going on? And then be like, oh, geez. And then, I'm all in on Donald Trump. I'm like, dude, no,
please don't.
Oh, don't. And then the original people leave a lot, not all of them, but and then now you get an influx, just a bunch of. But like you said earlier, which is super valid, it would rather have some people, awake to some degree, to the nonsense, that just all of it, and let them LARP out, whatever. Just don't bring it over here. Discredit everything. But Lee, are you still with us? Is he still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Sorry, buddy. How are you doing? I can't see you.
I'm doing great.
Good.
I think I'll turn my camera on for a second.
There he is. So, what do you make of it? All this? How'd you get into this?
There.
I know there's a lot there, but I mean, how did you? I mean, obviously, all this internet nonsense, but I mean, you had to have something like when you were paying attention to even start paying attention to this stuff. You have to get, you got to get the itch to some degree.
No, I did. Like I said, that's it. For me, the thing with the Hampstead kids over in the UK 4 years ago, that really sucked me in. And like I said, that's why I know a lot of the people involved in the game. Like I said, I just call it the game now at this point. And there's so many people that are out to expose each other that it makes it very difficult to, like I said, not get involved with one side or the other. And the paradigm's so polarized right now. Like I said, like I said, I like David Icke. There's, Alex Jones. If you don't listen to both sides, you're going to get caught up in the middle. And so that's where you just, like I said, it's the really fun part about this stuff is being able to have discussions and disagree and learn to disagree. I think that's where a lot of people, when they don't agree with each other, they start gaslighting each other unintentionally. They go get their friends to start ganging up on each other in the chat rooms. And like I said, it becomes an echo chamber and you can't really have civilized discussions anymore.
No, it's true. And that's a good point. I mean, it's just like, to not listen to both sides, I think is incredibly irresponsible. I mean, not only for everybody else, the point is if you're gonna, obviously you go to one side, you're just gonna get bent out of shape and dragged into just really silly reactionary nonsense where you're just gonna get emotional over nonsense. But I mean, so the Hampstead those cases brought you in, but I mean, how long have you been paying attention to conspiracy, not that kind of thing? Just overall, Lee, I'm curious. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
Oh, great question. Like I said, it's been so long now that, like I said, when I learned about my own connections to this cult, boarding school stuff that I got involved with back in high school, an article came out on Mother Earth by Maya Sklavitska about the connections between this and a bunch of just really crazy stuff. So I started paying attention to things more. And like I said, when I was sent the Hampstead kids stuff, I started just really following that stuff. I found out about this lady named El Coyote who had a web page about it. And she was just keeping up with the court case. And that's where I really learned my lesson. You can hear a bunch of stories and stuff, but until you get the court case number and start following the actual court cases and the people involved, you're just hearing one side or the other, speculating about one side or the other.
So that's when you actually started digging in, reading, the what's the name of it? I can't think of it. My brain is dying. Transcripts, court transcripts and whatnot.
The blind items webpage. There was a lot of different things with the Pizzagate stuff that you can look into. And so that's where I was just going, okay, there's this whole thing with the satanic ritual abuse stuff that is being exaggerated a little bit, in my opinion.
So, yeah, that was the satanic panic. I mean, if you look at it, that's one thing that's one thing that brought me, I think that's growing up in the church with evangelic, that kind of background. I remember them, my favorite band was Black Sabbath. I can't control what my favorite band is when I'm 5 years old, right? But I know I love it when I hear Iron Man and War Pigs. That's my favorite song. And I know I love that song. I know I love Black Sabbath. I can't control that. And the fact that it's Black Sabbath, and then I'm getting handed, you listen to this backwards. It says, I love the devil and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, oh, cool. I haven't, all of a sudden it's like the rebel in me or whatever as a kid wanted to explore that weird, you know what I mean? That angle, I guess, when you force that stuff down a kid's throat, they're going to rebel, obviously. So, I mean, I remember, as a kid, going looking at Black Sabbath records, I really want this, but I'll never be able to have it. But I don't know. It's just a weird.
Well, you're right. That story is so fascinating.
Yeah,
it's digging in. You find out about the Tavistock Institute and Laurel Canyon and
Franklin
National
scandal
Institute stuff.
Oh yeah, Taz. Yeah.
Martin Franklin's. Yeah, it's one thing leads to the next, leads to the next. Yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, and unfortunately, some of the stuff is true.
Some of it's true, yeah. I mean, but some of it's so salacious and trash that, I mean, and then that's, oh, look at what you guys are, look at, see, that wasn't true. I don't know the Presidio case. I don't care. Like, I've never had a chance to really, really research the Presidio case, so I don't want to speak on it and act like I know what I'm talking about. I just know what I think I know about it is they brought that out with a daycare, and then all of a sudden, with Michael Aquino behind it, and blah, 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 and then all of a sudden, you got, what is it? They got investigated. Then it turns out it wasn't. Everybody believed it was not true. And then Michael Aquino did the rounds on Oprah, Phil Donahue, what have you, Geraldo. And it turns out some of that was true. I don't know. I can't say. I don't know if any of you guys have looked into it. It's kind of a weird rabbit hole for like conspiracies in general, because it's one of the darker, horrible areas to go, rabbit hole to go down. But I mean, somebody has to do it. And I think like bringing the church into, like having the church, growing up in the church, I think that was like, well, you guys are talking, really bad about all this music, and you're tying it to really crazy, egregious shit. And that was like, well, that's the satanic panic, in my opinion. And yeah, it wasn't even true. Well, it was with the Franklin scandal, and it was with some other thing. I don't know. I don't know what to make of, and that's kind of something that bugs me a little bit, I think. It should bother anybody, but is not knowing what to make of Michael Aquino and that whole thing. Like, I've rewatched the videos with him, like doing Oprah and looking into the camera and saying these things, and I just don't know what to make of it. What do you guys make of any of it? I don't know.
It's a fascinating story. Unfortunately, like I said, Aquino's Temple of Set, him being involved with the Navy Psychological Operations Division, is very contentious right now. I do believe I heard his last interview. From what I've heard, he's not alive anymore.
Yeah, he passed away.
So a lot of people were looking into that stuff recently, and like I said, that's when you start looking into the COINTELPRO operations with the Black Panthers and the destabilization of the family unit stuff. There's that crossover there with Sidney Gottlieb, Dr. Ewan Cameron.
Yeah.
Right.
But also, I mean, okay, so I have a copy of Mind War and Mindstar, I think that's the name of it. And that's straight up like playbook protocol, Navy, or military intelligence. Like you have to know the terminology and be able to read it properly to understand exactly what's going on in those books. But the thing is I feel like I really don't know what to make of. I don't know what to make of Aquino. I really don't. I know I've heard his name tossed around so much. He's just a weird, fascinating character. And then to hear him on Michael Deacon show like multiple times, and I ask him, off air, I talk to Deacon, like, what is up with this? What's with this dude? Like, what? He's like, good guy. You know what I mean? Like a nice grandfather figure almost kind of situation. And that's the vibe he gives off. When I listen to him, I'm just like, my mind is spinning. Like I just can't. I don't have words for it, honestly. I don't know, Charlie. I don't know if you've listened, and have you heard ever? Did you ever hear any of those episodes with Aquino talking to Deacon?
No.
No.
I've done Deacon show before.
I thought you did. Actually. Yeah, I know. That's what I was about to say. I know you did. You've done it. Yeah.
He's funny.
That's my boy. I know.
Yeah, he's fun. I like his sense of humor because you can't really tell
where he's trolling.
It's like, is he fucking with me?
Yep.
Or is he serious? I'm not really sure, but I kind of like it.
Exactly. Veltman and I ended up hanging out, and that's how we ended up connecting. Really, was in a Michael Deacon chat, a live chat, really random. We were just like, what? So yeah, that's hilarious. It comes full circle.
Congress and hung out with Jay Widener, and all those people. And before I went to Disclosure Con and hung out with Ben and Rob from the Edge of Wonder, Carrie Cassidy,
Oh, gross.
and all them. So yeah, it's been a very interesting year this last year with all these people, and yeah, I do believe a lot of things are getting ready to come out in the near future. I know that one guy was going to do the documentary on Captain Mark Richards. That Secret Space Program documentary is supposed to be coming out soon. So if that comes out and it causes a big stir, and
Yeah, right. Are you talking about Wilcock? Are you talking about those idiots, liars? I
No,
mean, David Wilcock and Corey Good, those frauds? Is that what we're talking about?
you're getting into trouble territory.
Don't
Yeah,
care.
basically.
Okay. Who cares what they put out? It's bullshit,
Well, like
I'm
the
sure.
the whole secret space program resides on that Camelot, California, Captain Mark Richards, who's in prison right now. And so someone's supposedly doing a documentary exposing that stuff, which is causing Carrie and Angela Powers Disney and a bunch of people to be now making videos about each other. So it's like I said, it's just escalating all over YouTube right now. So it's very interesting.
I can't follow all the fighting that who's on whose side. I don't care. I just point out a fraud when I see a fraud, and I think that needs to be done. And people, that's the funny thing, Charlie. You say you love Deacon's sense of humor, so to speak. Well, it is, yeah, and it's funny. I don't want to share secrets or anything like that, so I won't. But yeah, I love that about him too. Like previous, listening to him, and then we connected off, and started talking and whatever. Yeah, I appreciate it, like having pretty goofy characters on, and
To realize that some people are that way. They troll. That's what they do. And it's like I said, if you don't get that that's their sarcastic humor,
right.
it's only missed 90%.
That's on you. Yeah, it's over your head and whatever. Oh well. So, yeah, I like that about Deacon. That's makes him endearing, personally. Jim, do you like Michael Deacon? Mike? No. Well, we don't need to get into a roundtable about Michael Deacon. His show's running probably right now. I feel like a jerk.
What's that?
Going again. You know Michael Deacon? Do you know what we're speaking of? We haven't talked to you in a while. Sorry.
No, I've heard the name, but I'm not really familiar with him.
Yeah, he's a goofball. He's a good guy though. He's a really good guy. He'll have on some pretty goofy cats in this field, and a lot of like UFO cat. I think was it Michael Horn. I think that guy's awful. I had to block him on Twitter. Like literally, I don't block people. Like that's just not my thing. But that guy just wouldn't stop trying to send. Like if you read this, then you read that. I'm like just trying to be nice, man. I was just trying to not be a jerk because everybody hates you. Not to be mean, you know what I mean? But I
Who
get
is
it.
this guy?
Michael Horn. He's the guy from. He's a UFO guy, and Billy Meyer. That's it. Billy Meyer. I don't know if you know that case where it's over in Sweden or something. I believe it's Sweden. Where in the 60s or 70s, he said he was in contact with, and I don't know the entire story, but he was in contact with some ETs, and they gave him ancient information about and then he started making predictions saying, for the future, saying that they said this was going to happen, this was going to happen. And I don't know how much has really come true, but he had the photos, and apparently he had a lot of really, really good photos back when you couldn't analyze them that well, when the technology just wasn't there. And what I've read is that these photos have been analyzed and they've been debunked straight up as outright hoaxes. A lot of them. He's a real character though. He's still out, like everybody's 86 to him. Complete, like, no, I'm sorry, dude. You can't come on this show. Coast to coast, like everything, bro. Like he's done, because he just won't stop. Like he'll keep saying, like I'm saying, I just was decent, like to him, like, yeah, man, cool, thanks, the exclamation, bye. And then all of a sudden my inbox is just filled with, if you thought that was good, then check this out. And I'm like, I didn't say it was good. And then he's, you got 15 articles, and then all of a sudden it feels like he's the type of guy that would call you at 4:00 in the morning. So, did you read those articles that I sent? You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Oh man, dude, no. But The troll game from Michael Deacon's pretty legendary.
So are you saying that the 20 and back program is not true?
What is that? Is that the Mars jump? What is it? Program? What have you?
To Mars,
Yeah, the jump room.
TRW building in
Yeah,
El Segundo.
Me and Barack Obama. Oh man. How did that
It's
even
funny
get?
because I used to live right by that TRW building. I mean, when the description, when they made the description, I was like, shit, I know exactly where this building is. I mean, I know the building's real, but the jump room I can't attest to.
I can't remember I saw that dude. I think I saw him on like the Daily Show. Do you know what I mean? Like I think I saw it on like the major thing and being like, I think I heard about this on Coast to Coast. You know what I mean? It's like, but I don't know. I don't care. But man, that's just goofy shit. But
I kind of like that. I like that one lane of the alternative information community. Not because I believe it or anything. I just think it's a fun, intellectual experiment or exercise. Yeah. Where you just think like, well, what if, or what if we were able to do that? What if there are slave colonies on Mars? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not saying I believe it, but like, what are the ramifications? Let's work backwards. Let's say it's true. Now we have to figure out, how did they figure out how to get the technology? When did they start doing this? Has this been around forever? Who's involved in it? And you start to think about, so it's kind of like this is what you talk about when you get super duper high and you talk about jump rooms to Mars, because that's the perfect conversation. But I don't give that talk at an Acapulco. I just can't do that talk. Right, so I'll have to talk about something else, but I wouldn't do the jump rooms to Mars. Later that night, when everybody's baked, that would be a fun time to have those conversations.
Yeah, fair game then. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So,
flat Earth.
Well, talking about the civilization and advanced technologies that's being hidden is a great conversation to have.
That is absolutely true, because we know that that's what makes these stories feasible in a sense, is because you go, well, that sounds crazy, but I do know that they're hiding secret technologies. Governments are lying bastards. This sounds like something they would do if they had the opportunity to. So like when you've got this conspiratorial brain like we all have, and you know that a lot of the stuff that the general public is told is not the truth, that technology exists that's far beyond what we're currently seeing, and we're getting like the military gets it, and then we get it like hand-me-downs for, it takes a generation or so for it to trickle down. So we know that. And we do know the extent to how devious and full of shit our governments are. So, we've got that component as well. And then you start to think about NASA, and they're full of shit. And you're like, okay, so they're lying. And then that, and then Catherine Austin Fitts and Mark Skidmore do the talk about the $21 trillion that went missing. You go, well, okay, well, that could finance something like that. So like the conclusion could be totally preposterous, but all these little angles that would have to come together to make it happen, a lot of them are actually real. And so that's why we're sort of in a position where we could potentially believe 20 and back missions, you know what I mean? Because
it's entertaining. We can entertain it for sure.
We can entertain the idea of it, not necessarily, get on board with it, but just we could understand that this, the sorts of things that would have to happen to make that possible are the sorts of things that are currently happening, in a variety of ways. And so who knows?
And I will say this too, like I brought it up last week, and it's one thing that I don't know, I want to get everybody's take on, and it's the fact that I was having this conversation with the dude who supposedly didn't have COVID, and he's got his philosophy, like a couple credits from having his master or his doctor, what have you. Doesn't matter. He's one of the smartest guys I know, and he's like, Barsky, I love you. I appreciate your takes on this, and this, but I don't really give a shit. I care about ancient Rome and studying that. That's my thing. I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, and then we got a little further, and he's like, all right, well, I was like, well, what do you think about this? I need your opinion on this. Seriously, man, I need your take. And he went into an area, and then we kind of met in the middle where it's like, you know what? This just seems like Cold War era shit, right? Like, secrecy, basically. And almost because of NASA, and we know that they've lied so much with so many things, right? It's just like, okay, maybe this was, instead of it being like 20 or 50,000 or 100,000 people, however many people, they're all lying and it's so compartmentalized, they don't know. No, I think it's probably just they all were caught running a lie. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, let's cover this couple things, but we'll tinker this and pump the machine up so hard that by the time 10 years comes around, everybody's already on this one track and believing it, and that's it. And that became a narrative, and that took a light on an egregore of its own. It's a living, breathing kind of thing, and it's gotten so big and out of control that it's got a life of its own. They don't have to pull any strings. This is just a self-fulfilling, crazy whatever. So I mean, I started to believe it makes the most sense because it's not. It was a conspiracy at one. I mean, I'm curious. Does that make sense? I mean, to you, Charles, I'm curious to know your take on that. Doing the research you've done for your book, does that ring true or resonate with you at all? Kind of like this could be just. Can you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, like just straight up disinformation that
to a degree, you know what I mean? And then also it's right.
It's so funny. Like with regard to space things, like I mean I eviscerated NASA in the one of the last chapters of my book. Just destroyed them with their own words, just using their own words against them. I have no respect for them. But I come to that with great sorrow because I'm named after Charlie Duke, one of the astronauts. I have a framed picture, of him that says, "May your life be as eventful and amazing as mine has been." And I'm like looking at this going, I don't trust you. I don't trust any of these people. I don't trust this story. I don't trust any of this. And so it sucks because I want to. I want to believe this. I like the idea. I like the idea of the space stuff. I like the idea of, that we would go to the moon. We would go other. I mean, I like that explorer mentality. And then, of course, to have it from, the United States and have our connections to the United States, it's like, wow, you could kind of feel proud about that. But man, I got big questions about NASA, just in general, on a variety of levels. And so. I find myself not being as enthusiastic about our ventures to the moon and to Mars and everything because I'm like, I just don't trust anything NASA says. So I would like this to, I'd like to believe this is happening. I put a quote in the book from Ben Rich, who was the CEO of Lockheed Skunk Works, talking about a presentation he did at UCLA in 1995 where he said, we have the technology to take ET home. And so Jan Harzen, who wound up later becoming the director of MUFON, who has his own problems apparently right now, if you read the press, he followed him out into the parking lot and said, "Hey, I work in propulsion, and I'm curious to know a little bit more about this. Like, when you say we have the technology to take ET home, what exactly are you talking about?" And Ben Rich's response to him was, "Well, do you know how ESP works?" And Harzen goes, "I don't know. All points in time and space are connected." And Ben Rich goes, "That's how it works." Walked away and then died a year later. So it's like, so you get that, which I can't confirm 100% that was that conversation took place, but I think it did. I mean, I've heard him talk about it a variety of times. So what do we got here? We have the guy from Lockheed Skunk Works saying that we have the technology to take ET home to the stars, and then we've got NASA saying something like, it's kind of hard to know who to believe. I don't believe NASA. That I'm certain of. But are the guys at Lockheed, are they doing things that we don't know about? Yeah, of course they are. That's kind of what they do. But how far, what does that mean? Are they 20 years ahead, 70 years ahead, 400 years. I mean, I don't know. If you're taking ET home, you've figured out something that is
Right.
beyond liquid fuel, liquid propulsion, and things like that.
Yeah.
So where are we? It's hard to know. And then, of course, one thing that I do know from writing my first book and the second book is that when you have $1 trillion allocated for the military every year.
I don't see any wars either right now. Like
Yeah,
on us.
there's a lot of they have a very large incentive to keep themselves as relevant, so they could be justifying their existence by faking, Cold War type stuff, talking about this alien race, we got to get off this planet, global warming, all these factors come in, and you start to analyze them, and you go, well, how much of this is actually true, and how much of this is just bullshit propaganda used to get us thinking that there are all these problems out there as a reason to justify their bloated budgets and continue to get their budgets and exceed their budgets year after year. I mean, we always have to have a boogeyman, right? So
yeah,
how much of that, where is it truth and where's the lies? It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it feels like with paperclip, and obviously that and the Nazis, you almost start to think like, okay, so with all this money going into the defense, that's hilarious, budget, and into the military, and then all these projects, it seems like as a kid, right, they seem to, when we were kids at least, they'd have you hyper focus on something where it's like, so who's your favorite astronaut, right? Like, what's your favorite blah, blah, blah. And then kids will hyper focus on these. They'll get you to look in a direction, and look at what's your favorite. That's when the dinosaur thing just gets me. As when I think about it, I'm like, holy shit, that's space, dude. Nowhere else do they push dinosaurs. What? Wait a minute. See, that's, and this one, dude, this pisses people off super bad. You even question this. How dare you? Dinosaurs. Where have you seen dinosaurs? Really? You picked up some bones? There's no real bones apparently at the Smithsonian, conveniently, right?
Oh, they have real bones, but you can't see them because they are radioactive. So they're encased in lead and then hidden way under the bowels of the
Smithsonian.
Yeah.
Like, really? Okay.
And they were financed by the Rockefellers, too.
There you go. I don't need to say anything else. Nobody. We could all walk away right now.
Yeah, and their symbol is very closely resembles the Jesuit sort of symbol. The sun with the trendles of fire coming off of it.
Yeah.
The Smithsonian logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sorry, sidebars.
No, you're full of them. Speak up more. No, but it seems like, okay, they'll get it, and then that turns into its own monster. And I think they figured that out a while ago and put that in, like, to the curriculums. Like, seriously though, I mean, I don't know how big of dinosaur. I don't know the age difference here, Charlie and Lee, but they had us hyper focused on space and dinosaurs. Those are the two. Like, if there's anything you go, knowing what I know now and reflecting back on that, what was it? Yeah, that was effed up.
Well,
like,
and the globe.
I don't care. Oh, that too. I mean, that's another thing. It's like, and yeah, the globe, they didn't push that. They didn't sell, what's your favorite? No, just what's your favorite dinosaur? Who's your favorite astronaut? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But the globe thing is totally there. It's just an assumed thing. It's like, you don't.
Well, it's just the first things you
feels
learn.
Right. Right. It's weird. But why have us as children hyper focusing on these things? And I think that sets the tone then for our. There you go. Now we're believers automatically, because if it doesn't, why challenge that? And we can't even parse those things out as children. Our brains aren't wired for that quite yet. But that gets me every time. It really does. Dude, I've been attacked. I'll literally just in jest post that shit on Facebook. Oh, and I remember running it by a friend of mine, and she dude, I mean, she's got like Nagamati text. Like, she's she's hip, like whatever. But dude, she lost her mind when I started telling her this, and I was joking. I literally took the stance that I don't believe in dinosaurs, and she took me. I ran with it, and I told her all the things I'm saying right here, and played it a little bit hard. I'm like, well, think about it. Why would they get us to do that? Why would blah blah? And she's like, Barsky, you're insane. You're insane. I'm getting really fucking pissed at you right now for even saying, like, because I'm like, dude. And then I had, like, she was literally getting angry, and I literally flipped like, I'm kidding, dude. And I'm like, I'm not kidding that hard, but I'm kidding, but I'm not. And she couldn't tell. Like, yeah, and she was angry. I posted on Facebook like a couple months later, and she noticed. And dude, it got Jason Lindgren from Crow 777. Like, I had to throw that in there because that's one of their episodes was like dinosaurs. They're just tearing everything apart, right? I listened to that. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, right. Let's hear you guys stumble all over this one. I'm like, oh no, damn it. I don't necessarily say that they didn't exist, but can't say they did. Shit, and then you're just kind of at a point where it's like, fuck.
Well, did you watch Hard Knocks a couple years ago when they had it with the Rams their first year in LA? They had Jeff Fisher's telling a story about one of the guys who is explaining to him, like one of the big D linemen, explaining to him dinosaurs weren't real. And Jeff Fisher is you can find it on YouTube. It's like a 2-minute clip. Jeff Fisher, the Ram, explains that this guy is telling him the dinosaurs aren't real. And then they cut to footage of it, and it is hysterical. And Jeff Fisher just does a great job with like a total straight face. And he's just like, I just don't know what, I every time I go out there, this guy wants to lecture me about dinosaurs. He's like, and part of me is really fascinated,
And I wonder if he heard that same episode, or how do you get to the line of thing? I don't know if there's been a lot of denial. I haven't looked into it, but like dinosaur denial, like space denial. Well, NASA, yeah, well, obviously, but it's where there's an army of people that are like, these are the moon landing hoax people. These are blah blah. You got your troughs here, in the conspiracy game kind of thing, what have you, but. That one really gets me. Like, I know you're just flat Earth, but there's like a weird. That felt like I brought it up last week. It feels like a psyop. And Terry, if you're in the chat, I'm not looking at the chat. I'm sorry, but like I remember he mentioned that. He said, "What do you think of this?" And this was like in 2016, something like that. Coworker, and I was like, "This just stupid. It doesn't seem right. It seems like a psyop. It seems stupid." And then I remember. Reading there was like a Rasmussen or a Pew poll where it had the demographics broken down. It's like totally itemized here. Like, yeah, this percentage believes it. Like it was like 18 to 24, blah 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 believes. And they had. I was like, that just proves. I think that proves a little bit like, yeah, this was a psyop, or I don't know. Maybe they're just throwing shit out there. But either way, it's a psyop. So I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a hard and fast. It's comical. It really. I mean, the flat earth thing is comical. People like they live and die on that hill. I'm like, that's not my bag. I'm not gonna sit and throw out. It's just like David Icke. 90% of what he talks about is completely rational, and then you got that 10% with the reptilian things where people can't handle it, and they flush all of his work down the toilet because of that 10%. I refuse to do that with. With researchers like this, I can't. It's ridiculous. I just can't do it. There's just too much meat and good. There's too much alchemical gold.
Did you ever see the interview that Billy Corgan did on Howard Stern, where he told the story?
Joe Rogan. I saw that. I didn't see the Howard Stern. But I know he's talking about the reptilian, right? Where he saw the eyes. Yeah. Did you guys, Jim? Did you guys or Lee? Did you guys hear that one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he apparently he went on Stern too then, did he?
So what happened?
Yeah. He was at a party, some Hollywood party, like a cocktail party, and he turned around and the guy like right near him like turned into a full reptilian and like shape-shifted back and like made it clear that like that's who he was. And he's like, and I guess his explanation was, I can't explain what I saw. And he didn't want to get into it too much, but I guess he did. He's mentioned it, twice.
And who is this you're talking about?
It's Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins
really?
talking about.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. He's also a big funder of Alex Jones. So
Yeah, they're buddies. I know
Yeah,
they're buddies.
They're buddies.
Yeah.
He's given him money, to support his thing. I've seen that. So
He does wrestling too, though.
Yeah, he bought a wrestling league.
Yeah.
he what?
So
Billy Corgan bought like
Wrestling.
a wrestling league. I guess he was super into wrestling as a kid. So
as a kid, yeah, and he runs that. So I mean, you put that together, that just makes me think a little like I don't know. But I mean, why would you go out and just make that shit up? No,
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm sorry, I believe Billy Corgan with that. I do. I didn't hear the whole thread.
He didn't seem to have a reason to be bullshitting. But that's the thing. You never know. It's like you don't know. We don't know these people. I don't know anybody that's ever had a reptilian experience, so I can't say. I mean, if it happened to me, I would, and I was trying to tell other people, I'd have to choose my audience carefully and word it properly, and I think I'd probably be saying something similar like, I can't explain what I saw, but I saw what I saw.
That's why it seems totally plausible that that's legit, like that happened to him. That experience to him, he believes it, what have you. Let him have it. I'm not going to go out waving a flag saying you're a freaking liar.
And I think the follow-up question was, were you on drugs? And the answer was, I was totally sober.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't know. Listen, if there's one thing I've learned after, mushroom trips and ayahuasca and DMT and everything, is that if we are basing what is possible and what is actually happening on our planet based on what we can just see or sense in our sober form, we're really limiting ourselves because there's so much more. There's so much, if you're talking about the infrared light spectrum or just the fact that like I could hear, I've done acid before, and I could hear conversations that my buddies were having like 3 rooms over where they were whispering, and I could hear it crystal clear. And it's like, okay, well, I don't know how I could do that, but I could do it. And and so it's like magic, or when you're tripping out and you're seeing things that aren't visible now, but are visible because you drank a potion or you ate some mushrooms or anything. It's like, well, now I understand that I don't understand anything.
It puts it on a spectrum. Everything on like it's weird, dude. It's like, and people that don't have that, haven't experienced that, you can't, you know what I mean? Like you have, that's the moment where you're just like, dude,
there's more to this.
Yeah.
Well, like,
I'm sorry.
Have you guys heard of the Santilli telescope?
No.
Santilli
sounds kinky.
He's a telescope designer. I think he's still alive now, and he pretty much it's like 2 telescopes put together like binoculars, and one of them has regular telescopic convex lenses, and then his Santilli lens is like a concave lens, so it like inverts the light. Instead of focusing the light together in one spot, it spreads the light and makes it really wide. And so the inventor of it, he swears that you can use it to see extraterrestrials or other entities because of the way that the light bends. And the regular telescope is modeled off of the way our eyes work, but the Santilli lens is completely opposite of that. And they use them in binocular setup so that they're both focused on the same area, and they both take pictures of the same thing, and then they compare them, and they can see, supposedly there's entities or, aliens. And the Vatican has a bunch of these Santilli telescopes, these binocular telescopes. So it's like something that they invested millions and millions of dollars into putting up, and what they're looking at with it, who knows? They don't tell us,
Clearly they can't probably say shit about it, dude. This is wild. Where are these things located? How big are they? Like, give us what? Santilli
telescopes. They're binocular telescopes. You can search for it if you look up Santilli. I could look it up and put it on the screen or something.
That would be cool. I don't even know, whatever. But Where did you learn about this, Jim? Where did you hear about this? Like, how do you know about this?
Oh, I just trolling YouTube.
Just random?
I think, yeah, I saw a video and I was like, holy smokes. And so I started doing some searches about it. And it's pretty interesting.
This is the first I'm hearing of it. I don't know, but Lee, you hear this?
It's patented, so.
Shit.
I've heard of a few different things, being able to look up into the skies and using infrared and ultraviolet rays to see things. So,
Yeah, I've never heard of the Santilli telescopes though, ever. I don't know how that slipped through. And I fell into, I don't know everybody. I'm not going to say everybody, but I know a lot of people fall into different, different rabbit holes, and you go a certain way. But yeah, the UFO thing, well, I've been over that for a couple of years now. Where I really go like, screw it. I think that, but whatever. The point is going through all that data, researching it, and coming up with, it's not from outer space. I don't think. That's it. That's all I know. I feel like I know that. It doesn't feel right. But yeah, I've never heard of the Santilli telescope thing, dude. Sounds rad.
I'm trying to find it right now, but my keyboard just
It's all right.
punked out on me.
So
Let's see if I can do that again.
it's all right. So I'm thinking we're gonna wrap soon here, guys. Let these guys go.
Yeah,
But so before we go,
Ruggero Santilli.
what's up?
The guy's name is Ruggero Santilli.
nice, yeah.
Yeah, I found he's got some videos on YouTube, and
Definitely worth checking out. Here, if I can-
Yeah, we got
Great, just what I need.
Yeah.
Go down that rabbit hole.
Go down another one.
Watch
Yep.
ultraviolet videos of entities for the next 5 hours tonight.
I know that's what I'm doing when I but no, Charlie and Lee, I want to thank you guys. Charlie, why don't you give us Octopus of Global Control? If you guys don't know, you're idiots, and you're not idiots. I love you guys, but go buy the book. Charlie, do you want your website and all that?
Sure.
Goodness.
Yeah, well, if you want to buy the book, you can if you like the paperback, you can get it at Amazon or BarnesandNobles.com. But if you like the digital version, you can just get it at my website, theoctopusofglobalcontrol.com. Just donate $10 or more on PayPal, and I send over a PDF version and an EPUB e-reader version. So, and then I just tell you, share it with your friends and family. I don't care. I'd rather
Way to do it.
the info be out everywhere, as much as possible. And then I've got a podcast called Macroaggressions, which is a whole lot of fun to do. And my guest this week, which will go live in, I don't know, a couple hours, is Jason Bassler from Police the Police and the Free Thought Project. He's a good dude. So, I do an interview each week, and I do a monologue each week as well. And it's been fun. It's good to get the kind of get it out of my system, so to speak, so that I don't feel like a crazy person this whole year. With everything that we've been going through, it's easy to feel like you're losing your mind. So at least I'm talking into a microphone that records it. I don't know if I'm talking to one person or thousands of people. But
cool.
The feedback that I've gotten so far has been beyond anything I could expect. So I'm going to keep doing it as long as I can, because I feel like it's important for us to talk about these topics, even if they're really dark and disturbing, because some of this stuff flourishes because nobody wants to talk about it, and so it continues to happen. So I feel like it's on the one hand it's not fun. And so that's why I infuse my dark, warped sense of humor into the book, to try and make it as funny as I could, because the topics are so serious. They're so important and have such a big impact on us as a society. So it could be tempting to be like, oh, it's all going to shit. What's the point? What's the use? It's like, no. This game's not over yet. We still have some time. We can still take back control. We live on a beautiful planet that is amazing. There's a lot of cool human beings on here too. There's some shitty ones that are in positions of power, but we're figuring out who they are, and there's still a lot to be hopeful for. even during this current year, which has been weird to say the least.
No, I agree. The hopeful thing is like part of it. We have to be able to laugh at these things, and that's why I appreciate this conversation so much. Like, this is like whatever, just hang out, shoot the shit. There's no whatever. We need to be able to laugh at. We need to be able to look at these things. And I mean, yeah, it's really dark, but whatever. I mean, as long as, like I said, we can laugh about these things. It's like, all right, just be hip to things. Hate the woke word, but it's true. Like, just try and be aware of it. And Lee, what's up, buddy? I want to say goodnight, pal. And why don't you tell them where everybody can find you and your buddies?
Yeah, I'm over on the We've Read the Documents YouTube channel with John Brism. We talk about Nexium and Est and the Finders Cult and the troubled teen industry as well. It was an honor being on here with all you guys. Charlie, it's a great honor to be here. Like I said, your stuff on the octopus of global control made me look at the externalities and exchange commissions and the whole geopolitical world in a different way. So it's
cool.
Like honor.
Thanks, Lee. I appreciate it, and I love what you and John are doing over there, John. And of course, we all have this connection to Billy Ray Valentine, who we all really love and respect so much. So
Billy Ray.
Yeah, he's texting me. He was texting me this morning. So
there you go.
I just through him, I've had a chance to meet a lot of really smart people, a lot of very fun guy. I like the way I like this whole vibe. This works for me. I feel like this is the way you have to talk about this stuff.
Thank you. And I was like, Jim, if there's stress involved in this show, I was like, fuck that. Let's not do it. Like, we were pushed it back. And like, no, we don't, dude, I don't care. It probably says, I don't care what it says on the YouTube screen. As long as you can see it and hear it, and that's it. Right now, I don't care. Like, I just want to get it out, and there you go. Okay.
Well, so yeah, we'll get it out first, and then we'll worry about the format of all the pretty stuff later.
Yeah. Like, what gives a shit? Like, whatever. This is fun. This needs to be had and needs to be done now. So whatever. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yep. You figured it out.
I appreciate you guys thinking to have me on because I love this shit. It's so much fun. You know what I mean? Just talk about what ifs and what can we do and where's this all going and what are the ramifications of it all, and I don't think that any of us believe that we're actually solving all of the world's problems, but like these conversations have to happen, because if they don't happen, nothing changes, and people don't see these things, or they don't look at the world, and like, frankly, you never know what's going to wake somebody up. Like for me, 9/11, Building 7 in particular woke me up. Right. But for other people, it might be some of the lies of the coronavirus of 2020 that wind up waking people up 2 years from now.
Yeah.
They're watching these videos going, holy shit, these guys were talking about it back then, and so you never know. We talk about a variety of topics because one of them might be the one that wakes you up. And as everybody that's probably listening to this knows, like once you wake up to one of them, you start digging into the other and the next one. And so you can't go back to sleep. You don't want to go back to sleep. It's your obligation to not go back to sleep. You're awake. You're one of the few people that's awake. Isn't this awesome? By the way, you do have one responsibility. You have to inform people of it. You have to make sure that you're getting as close to as truthful information as you can. Obviously, you're working against professional disinformation campaigns, so you're going to make mistakes from time to time, but keep yourself focused, like on the right, come at it from the right angle and inform people of this. Like that's your job now. And
I feel like
you should do it.
You have a responsibility at this point to take 5 steps back and not react immediately to any bit of news, any bit of information that comes across your line of sight, whatever, anything you hear, don't immediately react. And it's sometimes we all have to check ourselves, like, it's tough. Shit, wait a minute, to slow down. And it takes another person freaking out for you to be able to, wait a minute, oh shit, that's a huge thing. And I think that's the most important thing. It's just whatever you do, unless you got somebody aiming a gun at you, some like one of those situations where it's fight or flight, where I totally get it. Do not, don't take anything too seriously, and don't, just remain questioning everything, which is, you know, especially authority. So, and that's what kind of punk rock, getting into that at such an early age was like, oh, thank God. And that's the fucked up thing about all this is all the people, dude, like 80% of my friends that I grew up with that are still doing a lot of, and artists that are out there still making music and touring off of shit, they're falling prey to the first rule of punk rock, which is like question authority. I'm like, what are you doing? Put in this, you believe this? Like, seriously? Are you kidding? And I'll call them out, even on like, I'll do it on social media, but I won't do it publicly. I just privately, I'll do it. And it's like, we've been friends for 25 years. And seriously, you're putting this shit out there? Like, really, dude? Come on. and then I'll literally make it a 3-paragraph thing where I'm citing things. Prove, like, go look into this. Go into this if you want to. Check it out. I'm not trying to be a dick, but dude, check it out. And then a couple days later, I'm like, shit, I must have pissed dude off really bad. And no, I'm like, I really appreciate you letting me know that this, and it seems like I need to do more research. I was like, okay, that, I mean, doesn't happen all the time, obviously, and that's the ideal situation, but it happened the last couple times I've done it, so it's like, all right. So I guess your approach is important as well. Don't come at him like a Jesus freak.
Yeah.
Don't come at.
I've done that. Don't do that.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Badly.
It's ugly. It's really ugly. So, but yeah, I want to thank you guys again for coming, hanging out. Really appreciate it. Hopefully, we'll have to do it again at some point soon.
For sure. I'm up for it.
Every day. Every day. Shit. So, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great night, everybody.
See you later. All right, I'm gonna let her go, and
Me
we
too.
have.